What is U.S. soccer culture? Can we define it? Why does it feel like it's so divided at times? Why does it feel like it's so much different from other sports in America? Are we soft? So, why don't we discuss that? Hi, Senor here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to episode 2 of this mini series here at the channel with Brian Kleiban. So as I said, today we have episode 2 of the 2-episode miniseries with Brian Kleiban, who has worked for the LA Galaxy Academy and is heavily involved with U.S. youth soccer development. I put his socials on the description. For this episode, we're going to be discussing about U.S. soccer culture. And as I said on the previous episode, when I'm talking about U.S. soccer, I am referring to the U.S. men's national team community, the MLS community, the man's programs, okay, for this specific series. There's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot to talk about. So let's play a quick word from our sponsor and let's roll the intro. All right, Brian, welcome back. We're not even welcome back. You never left. Segment 2 here. Today we're going to talk about here U.S. soccer. Put that away.
Same outfit, same outfit.
Same outfit, but just don't put that. Don't put that. You do, going back to Brazil, Argentina, you do realize the third star that you just got, Brazil got it in 1970. It's been a while. We got it a long time ago. But U.S. But Brian, U.S. soccer culture. U.S. soccer culture. That's the topic of discussion of this video. And by the way, we're talking more about U.S. men's national team soccer culture, okay? Because that's what we cover. So we're not going into the U.S. women's national team or anything like that. So everyone understands what we're talking about here. So when we refer to U.S. soccer, we're talking about the men's program for this video. Should we start by maybe trying to define U.S. soccer culture?
I would love to hear. Yeah, I'd love to hear what direction we're heading here because I feel like it's all a buzzword, a facade.
Yeah. So I'll put it this way: U.S. soccer culture. When a player shows too much personality, right? U.S. men's national team. Okay. I'll put an example: Hoppy in the Gold Cup last year, 2 years ago. Gio Reyna in the World Cup reaction. The player's angry because he's not playing. I'm not saying I'm for a player having a bad attitude, but I'm for players having their own personality, speaking out, right? Having a little bit of arrogance that I am the best, I'm going to perform here instead of a bunch of yes men. In U.S. soccer, U.S. men's national team culture, there's a good amount of the fan base that wants more of those guys that are like fight and win, say yes, sir, to the coach. And what should I call it? I'm trying to word it in a nice way. More of like a yes man, right? That just follows orders and there's no personality. And we see a lot of that time sometimes, at least with the current national team right now. You see players that are talented, good players, but there seems to be no soul to the team. There's nothing like a guy that can spice things up, right? It's a lot of like, yes, man. That seemed like that was something Greg Berhalter, like John Brooks showed some attitude and everyone got pissed off. Not everyone, but there's a part of the fan base that didn't like it. And it seems like U.S. soccer culture, at least from the men's national team part, that is divided. There's a part of the fan base that loves personality. I personally do. I know you do too. And there's a part of the fan base that hates it. It seems like it's divided with that. Something that's not very common among other countries. Like it's very defined what they like to see, right? You go to Argentina, Brazil. So that is U.S. soccer culture as a whole. Do you agree with that?
So I agree 100% in terms of the Gio example per se, and even having experienced it with youth players playing on youth national teams. Players would arrive at camps, players coached by me at the Galaxy, and we get phone calls after the camps. Listen, top talent, top player, fantastic, difference maker, but like almost like not obedient. You know what I mean? Doesn't come and greet you and shake your hand, and he kind of felt above it. And yeah, this player is so dominant that he was used to playing up 2 or 3 years, and now he goes and plays his own age group. And at the national team level, even it was a walk in the park for him. So it was frowned upon. It was frowned upon. And this is a player that got pushed away and is now playing south of the border. So everyone could do the math who that player is, right? It's just frowned upon. Like this Gio thing. Again, I put on my coach's hat. I don't want that part of my team, but it's part of your job as a coach to know your players, to know what buttons to push, to know how to deliver the message, knowing how Gio has always been this way. Okay, I've known Gio for a long time. He's been this way since a youth player. I don't want to say the word, but I think I tweeted it once. He is a 4-letter word that starts with a. He's this way, okay? And how can I get as a coach the best out of this guy?
So is Neymar. So is Neymar.
Hey, the big guys are like this, 100%. People think Messi is this great. Oh, look, he's such a great. Messi is an SOB, man. Big time. Big time. So, anywho, I don't want to compare Gio to those guys, but Gio is who he is. And as the national team boss, you got to get the best out of your match-winning talent. So, I don't want to dive deep into what happened, but like you said, the culture here, Filippo, is so soft that we want, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. We want your Aaron Longs and your Walker Zimmermans and whoever it may be, your Kellen Acostas that are just whatever Greg says goes. No, John Brooks, at these levels, Filippo, just as good as I do, I know because of how it is in Argentina. Players and coaches can have disagreements. And they talk about it and they talk tactics and what could be better. And actually, the high level coaches say, hey, what do you think? Ultimately, they make the decisions, but they consult. So this Gio thing that got blown up and everybody's pissed off about it. And now they want to excommunicate Gio, shouldn't be called up. What are we talking about? This is the best player that we have in our country. And sure, was he match fit? Was he not match fit? The guy's the difference maker. He comes in, okay, Bundesliga comes in, and he makes a difference in 20 minutes. Oh, look, he could be a role player. Fantastic. He could have been a role player at the World Cup, but the World Cup is 3 games every 4 years. So if the guy was fit enough to play before the World Cup, and I think I tweeted this, people got mad. Oh, look, he barely started playing. He was fit or he wasn't fit. And the player obviously felt he was fit. So Filippo, fuck, I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but I'm going all in on this.
You did mention one thing that I want you to build upon it. You talked about, because I said it's not, when you say U.S. soccer culture, it seems like U.S. soccer culture is a bit divided, right? Not all fans act that way. A lot of them are on the Gio Reyna side of like, we want players like that with some personality, right? We don't care, like have personality, which is kind of crazy because when you go back and you look at a player like Clint Dempsey, that's one of the best players the U.S. ever had. That guy had some personality and still does. And people love him, but it, like you said, soft, right? You use that word, and I want to pick on that word a little bit because American sports as a whole is not soft. You go to the NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, NFL, the media is not soft. They come after the players. The fans are not soft. They want players with attitude. They want players even with a bit of arrogance, right? You want that, like that confidence that almost seems like arrogance. He's like, I'm the best player here. I can go back and look at the best basketball players here, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. Everyone look at those guys and it's like there's like a bit of arrogance around them. So my question to you is there. You use the word soft, and I agree with you. There is a part of the soccer fan base, a big part of the soccer fan base. It's not that small because if it was 10%, who cares? It almost seems divided. I would say maybe 60 to 40. 60 are not, 40 are. Why is it that U.S. soccer culture is so different? And maybe talk a little bit about the media itself and how they sugarcoat everything.
It is crazy, no? And I think about it on the lines that you explained it, Filippo, because growing up, not so much anymore, I don't have time for it, but growing up, I watch a ton of NBA. I watch a little bit of NFL. I watch all the sports, but NBA, I watch a ton. And even now, once in a while, I see it on social media, or I see on FS1 in the morning, Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp, and they talk shit straight up because Russell Westbrook, he has goes. They have goes at players. The good, the bad, the ugly, they have goes. And I think in all sports, it's like that here, like you said. It's not a soft culture. They go after you. I can't pinpoint why. Well, obviously, the majority of the media is employed by the league, right? So they're not going to openly criticize players of the league. So there's a conflict there. We get mad that there's conflicts, but that's a big time conflict. But it is a soft soccer culture that we have from the media, from the fans in general, man. I mean, I don't want it to be the other way around where it's over the top. Because south of the border, growing up here in LA, Filippo, south of the border, like they're over the top. Like Mexico, they're trying to punch above their weight and think that they're a world power, which they've never been or never will be if things continue down this trajectory. But they demand so much more of their players, so much more of their coach. Like they crush everybody in sight. I don't think we need to get to those levels because that's over the top. And I think it's a little bit dramatic at times. But Yeah, why can't we criticize? Why can't we say, hey, at the World Cup, X player didn't perform to standard without everyone, oh, you're just, Filippo, you're just mad that Jesus plays at FC Dallas. No,
MLS, yeah.
Jesus, the MLS, Jesus, which I know Jesus for a long time and was an incredible youth player and has done fantastic for FC Dallas. Well, this is a different level, man. So when he does not produce at this level, the media, the fans should be allowed to openly criticize and say, Jesus, sorry, you don't cut the mustard, my friend. You should not be called up anymore. What's the problem? I'm
Yeah.
not you, but I know that
No,
you've
but
been.
it's me. I asked for him not to be there, so yeah,
No,
partially me.
but people come in left and right, whether they're anonymous or not, and they tear your freaking head off. Yes or no?
Yeah. So one thing I don't get, Brian, about this part of the fan base in U.S. soccer is, and again, I think people should be whatever way they are, because one thing I do appreciate is there is this part of the fan base of MLS that they're very passionate for their players. So when I criticize Jesus and Dallas fans come after me, I actually appreciate that because that means they're passionate for their team. I'm 100% for that. What I'm not for is when I get called an MLS hater for it. That's what I don't like, right? Saying a player doesn't cut it, and this is very weird with U.S. soccer culture for a little bit, for me at least, is you go to other countries and it's not just Brazil, it's not just Argentina. You go to England, you go to France. No one identifies as a, like there at least in England, as a, I'm a Premier League fan. It's like, no, I'm a fan of my club, right? They don't defend the league. They don't care. Like if you go to Brazil and you criticize a player from Flamengo, no one's gonna call you a Brasileirão hater. They're gonna either argue with you and call you a Flamengo hater. Maybe that's totally possible, but that's something that in MLS or this part of the culture here, I just don't really get. It's almost like maybe because it's like the league is young and they were like the first fans, right? It's so young and these are the first fans. Like the league is our baby and they root for the league. The Sounders, for example, going to the Club World Cup and I mean I was rooting for them. I'm
This
just
is
gonna
a good
be
example. This is
yeah.
you.
I'm gonna root for them, but my emotional attachment to MLS is very low. Right, I go to a lot of games, and I went to a lot of games in different states, and I watch games following U.S. men's national team players and some young prospects. But emotionally, I'm attached to Palmeiras in Brazil, so I don't care much about what happens in terms of who wins. And one thing that shocked me, and where was I going with this? Wait, now I just forgot. I was talking about completely lost my train of thought there.
No. We were talking about people criticizing, and being
Oh, the
anti-MLS.
Sounders, the Sounders, the Sounders. So the Sounders, and I was rooting for them because I don't have much emotional investment in MLS. But I saw fans of a bunch of random clubs also rooting for them because it's the league. And honestly, I was fine with that. But the main difference I noticed was Flamengo was in Brazil and when was representing South America.
Just
And
went crazy.
when they lost to who did they lose again? They lost to Al Ali or I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
To
They
either
lost.
the Saudi or the Egyptian team. Yeah, to
Saudi,
someone.
Saudi,
Yeah.
Saudi team. When Flamengo lost, Brazil as a country was celebrating it outside of the Flamengo fans. It was hilarious. I was happy they lost, right?
Yeah.
So completely different perspectives. I kind of like a little bit the fact that people root for the league because they understand that USL and MLS have to grow and get better if we want US soccer to grow too. And that goes into that accountability.
Yeah.
That's a good topic here. Why is it that when we criticize MLS, you have media members down talking fans? Why does that happen here? I don't see that in other countries because you've experienced that too, and you see it happening to us. It used to happen a lot to me. They kind of stopped. Some blocked me. Some probably blocked you too. Is it really just because they're employed by the league? Where are the journalists that are not employed by the league? There are a few that aren't. Why don't they speak out?
Yeah, again, man, it's speculation. It's very strange to me how one of the media members, I think, even tweeted it. Like all the media that was at the U.S. friendly on European soil 2 or 3 months before the World Cup, they were going to be part of the charter flight from destination A to B. Like I think that's absurd. I mean, when Brazil travels, the national team, do the members of the media of all the media outlets travel with them? That's crazy. You know what I mean? So
Shouldn't.
everybody's in cahoots together, and again, it goes back to the culture of being soft. Nobody's allowed to really express or attack or critique because they're all in it together, man. You know what I mean? Everyone's protecting everybody in their vested interest.
Yeah. Do
which
you think?
it stagnates us, man, across the board.
Yeah, I even want to show one thing here, and I might put it on screen for you too, because this was actually kind of funny. And I'm going to put this on screen so you can read it. And it goes back to what you said about being soft. And we're recording this late February, right? Phil Neville, the coach of Inter Miami, he kind of mentioned that he was for MLS adding promotion relegation at one point, and this is what came out today, the day after. Following the interview, Inter Miami expressed concern about Neville's comments on promotion and relegation and offered his proper context for the thoughts he originally shared with The Athletic. To clarify, this is my personal feeling based on my previous experience, Phil Neville added. With that being said, the single entity format has contributed towards the league's position on the world stage, has enabled the sport to grow enormously in the country, and has allowed it to become the highly competitive and exciting MLS that we so much enjoy. To me, what happened here was Phil Neville said something about promotion relegation, which that did happen. He said he wanted that for MLS in the future. He didn't say when. Someone in MLS went knocking on Inter Miami's door and said, hey, we can't have a coach of the league supporting something that the owners and the league, Mr. Don
100%.
Garber, whoever it is, do not want. Is that the way you saw that too?
We know 100%. That's exactly what happened. You know what I mean? People can't speak openly. It's unbelievable. Like, I think, didn't Bob Bradley speak something of this nature a few years back as well?
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody that's tested it and been overseas and seen it. And listen, I think if people could be unfiltered and speak the truth, we can grow. But everybody has to have a filter here. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, right, came with his vast experience, with his personality, let's say, and listen, he was frowned upon. He was frowned upon within the Galaxy organization because he wasn't your obedient guy. He would tell the president or the sports director in their own offices, "Hey, get up! You're sitting in my chair." I swear to God, listen, come in, and the guys like laugh. I'm not joking. Get out of my chair. Like, that's how he would comport himself. And I think he said it to the media a lot of times about the level of competition and how no games truly matter and how people talk about the playoffs and everybody makes the playoffs. So the environment is shit. You know what I mean? He wanted it to be better. He was like, here I come with my experiences. These are my suggestions. But he was too outspoken. And lo and behold, when push came to shove, they didn't want him to continue. At 37, 38, 39, 40, he's still banging goals. He went to Serie A after and was banging goals left and right. So he wanted to stay, and he was kind of forced out. Zlatan for being outspoken. So anybody that is not obedient,
do you think it's because it's a small club? Because if U.S. Soccer was much bigger, maybe the people that now control it and keep it this way would have maybe less power, because then you just have many independent media outlets or even big media with a lot of money flowing in that they would be able to say. Do you think it's because the size is the problem maybe?
because it's closed, man. And listen, and the federation and the league are in cahoots. You know what I mean? Where
But the
usually
NBA is also closed, right? It's a closed system too, franchise, and there's still heavy criticism. You talked about Stephen A. Smith and many others. What I'm wondering is U.S. Soccer too small that what happens is if you want to work with it or cover it, you kind of depend on the league. While
correct.
these other ones, they're so big, there's so much sponsor money coming in that it doesn't matter. You can talk about the league, or my other theory, and then you can tell me if this one, or these other leagues understand that criticism and sometimes over-exaggerated criticism is even part of the content, right? To tell stories and to get people to care, because it does seem like MLS's main problem is having people care about it. That's probably the biggest problem.
No, if they switch it up and it became a little bit more dramatic per se, maybe it would grow the audience. It would grow the league. Because the reality, I don't know the numbers. You don't know the numbers in terms of ratings, in terms of sponsorship deals, that the money coming in, it can't be anywhere near what the other leagues are making, the NBA, the NFL, like not even close. And it's not Mount Everest, because we know that there is a huge soccer first demographic here in our country where it can overtake it at any time. You know what I mean? Could we grow and get to that level of revenue and stuff? Absolutely. But I feel like it's such, like you said, a small world, small little group where all that really matters is not sporting excellence, where all that really matters is just having your franchise and your real estate sitting and the value going up. Did the values come out recently? Like LAFC is worth $1 billion now, and the buy-in for
And
any
who
franchise.
cares? Like, who
Yeah,
cares?
no, but the buy-in
Yeah.
now, who cares? That's all they care about.
But I'm just saying, like, okay, they put this out to the public as if we care. It's like, oh, LAFC is worth $1 billion. It's like, why do I care? I don't make any money off that. I don't have any attachment to how much your club is worth. What about winning, right? Even the fans, like, why do the fans care if it's worth $1 billion?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But
That
Brian,
has
one
zero-
question to you, another question to you here, because I want to get your opinion, because you've coached kids from many dual nationalities. So this might be a good one. At times, I don't feel like it. I think it's probably true, and there's data to prove that there's a disconnect between soccer fans in this country and the national team, a big one, mostly with dual nationals, right? If it's someone that's just American, parents also grew up in the US, grandparents in the US, they'll be a US men's national team fan if they're a soccer fan. When it comes to dual nationals, it seems like a lot of them are either divided or more inclined to the other side for the most part. The United States is probably the only country in the world, not the only country, but the only country that makes it to a World Cup, right? Because obviously some countries in Africa, if Brazil plays there, you're going to get more Brazil fans than the country. But the United States are the countries that make it to the World Cup. It's probably the only one that when they play at home, they have to choose a specific location so they don't feel like they're playing away, which is nuts. It's crazy to think about that. Could you imagine Argentina? It's like, we're going to play Brazil. Where do we play in Argentina so Brazil doesn't? Like, that wouldn't happen. It's crazy. England, too, is like, where do we play in England? We can't put it in London. There's too many Germans here. Like, no, that doesn't happen. But in the U.S., we literally have to pick. And you go back to 2022, we played Morocco, right? And most of the fans were Morocco fans, right? Which is crazy. That's not even like Mexico that's right here. It's Morocco. And they had more fans. The U.S. is going to play El Salvador here in Orlando. And who knows? There might be more Salvadorian fans. Who knows? It's crazy. And a lot of these guys, they're actually, a lot of these fans, they're actually American, right? They're usually Moroccan Americans, like their parents are, or they've moved, migrated.
They feel it.
Yes. There's a disconnect, and a lot of them love the United States, right? They live here and they love the country, but they want to root for the other national team. What's your experience with that with the kids? And then I want to tell you a story of me coaching that you might not find it crazy, but some people might, about like dual nationality. What's your experience with it, and why do you think that happens?
Yeah, man, Filippo, for one, I'd say a high percentage of the dual nationals, Mexican Americans that grew up in Mexican households, they just grew up feeling the green jersey, man. It's a cultural thing that every single time Mexico plays, win, lose, or draw, it's a family event, it's a family gathering, it's the asada, it's the tacos, it's like a big event, right? Where Mexico is going to play whoever they're going to play, but Soy Mexicano and the national anthem, like it's something that they grew up with. Whereas the reality is, even though they're American, when the U.S. plays, is it a big deal? Nobody covers it. Nobody really cares. You're saying you go to the stadium and it's 80% your opponent, no matter who you play. Like it was just Colombia, USA here. Yeah, it was a scrub cup, scrubs against scrubs. But the Colombians, with zero players that anybody identified with, turned out. It was 80 or 90% Colombians here. And LA's not Miami. Imagine if it was in Miami. So yeah, the players, when you think about it, it's like, okay, I grew up this way. Do I dream of playing in La Azteca where there's 100K going bananas for you or against you? Because, they can turn on you real quick. Or do I want to go and play specifically in Minnesota on a freezing night so I could get a little bit of support? Do I want to be a rock star? Because when Mexico travels, they travel like rock stars. Or do I want to be part of U.S. Soccer, who travels with their media members?
Do you think that goes down a little bit to personality that we talked about? The U.S. maybe lacks also a superstar that kids would look up to. Like kids want to be Mbappe, they want to be Messi, they want to be Neymar. And even in Mexico, if you go talk, a lot of them want to be like Chucky Lozano, they want to be Raul, because these are guys with more personalities. And I even talk about this, for example, Christian Pulisic is a superb talent, maybe more talented. I think he's a better player than Chucky Lozano. I personally think he is. Of course, it's debatable. Some might say not. Don't care about that. If anything, they're about the same. But Pulisic's personality sometimes is a bit boring, right? You don't really like a kid's not going to look up, wow, he's so cool. It's like that's not what it is. Maybe a guy like Gio Reyna has a bit more of that spice that someone's like, oh, I want to be like Gio. Like maybe something like that. Because kids do identify sometimes more with like the bad boy, the rebel, like Ibrahimovic, like Zlatan that you talked about. These are the guys they look up and we push them away here. So maybe that could be one of the reasons why the kids don't identify. Putting out my theory, like you coached a lot of kids. Who are their idols?
No, it's the same. You know, if you're a midfielder in the last decade, it was Xavi and Iniesta, right? If you're
Those are not bad boys, though. Those are not bad boys.
But it's it's the world class players, the difference makers, the ones that grab headlines. Now, like you said, everybody wants to be Mbappe. Everybody wants to be Vinicius. You know what I mean? Listen, Vinicius, I can't wait. It's what, an hour and 45 minutes to kickoff, and I want to go see the crunch matchup: Vinicius against Liverpool, Vinicius against Alexander Arnold. Yeah, great. We all follow our American players that are playing overseas. Do I wake up at 6:30 to watch Dortmund? Yes. Do I wake up when Pulisic was playing? Yes. But how many do, Filippo? How many? You think the young
not enough.
You think the young bucks, the new generation of cell phone Twitter, IG, you think those guys are locked in for 90 plus minutes watching their quote unquote idols play? No, because they don't identify yet. No, they don't, like you said, they don't see somebody where it's like, hey, I want to be that guy. Not yet, at least.
Well, it's a funny thing that you mentioned that too, because here I have a soccer school soccer company that's an after school soccer program for elementary kids, right? And I have about 300 to 350 kids registered. And I don't coach all of them, but I go once a day to each school. And when I came back from the World Cup, I asked as many kids as I could, not 300, obviously. I didn't go to all schools, but let's say 50, 20, 100 roughly. I asked roughly 100 kids. Okay. They're mostly American or dual nationals. Some of them are just American. A lot of them are dual nationals, Brazilian Americans, Scottish Americans. I have Scottish Americans here, Japanese Americans, depending on the area. And I asked them who watched the World Cup, and almost all of them raised their hand. I mean, it makes sense. They play soccer, right? I'd say out of the 100, 95 said, I watched it. And they're all 7, 10-year-olds, roughly. The second question I asked is, who rooted for the United States? And I swear to you, it was probably 5 to 10 that might have raised their hand out of the 100. It was very low. And then I started asking, who did you root for? And then the kid's like, France. I'm like, but where you're from? U.S. Like, why did you root for France? And he's like, because of Mbappe. And then who did you root for? Portugal. Where are you from? I'm Venezuelan American. I was like, but why Portugal? And it's like Ronaldo. And then there's some kids like Brazil because of Neymar, Argentina and these were mostly Americans. They were Americans. Some of them were Scottish Americans, Venezuelan Americans, national teams that are not in the World Cup. And then when I would ask them, why did you not root for the U.S.? Like, oh, because the U.S. sucks. And I said, well, we don't suck. I said that for first because I asked them, is England good? And they're like, yes. I mean, we tied England, so we don't suck, clearly, right? But I think sometimes a lot of the young fans, they're missing that Vinicius, that guy that you're like, you want to watch so much and you want to be that guy. I don't see a lot of the fans here. And we also don't have that many Mexican Americans in the national team. So a lot of the Mexican Americans don't identify with the players, right? Because we just suck at that recruiting from that aspect. I think that's a lot of the issues I see here. And I want to,
if I can touch on two things, I don't want to take away your next thought. You have it? Can I touch on two things that you just talked about?
The mic is yours.
Okay. Two things based on soccer culture. And you gave the most beautiful example of the kids and how you illustrated it, where it took me now to my recent experiences coaching at this club, Real SoCal or LAFC SoCal Youth. Mostly American guys, okay, American kids, 2009, which is what, 13-year-olds. US Mexico were going to play for the World Cup qualifier or something. And I thought it was absurd that at this club level, which is a big youth development club here, we were going to have training that night. Like, we talk about soccer culture, like anywhere else on planet Earth, not just Brazil and Argentina, anywhere else on planet Earth, the national team plays, especially the derby, the classic game. Everybody's off. Everybody's at home watching the game, right? So that's
especially a soccer club.
Yeah, well, two, it's like, hey, who's gonna win? And you would expect all the American kids, oh, they both suck. You know what I mean? To your point, I was like, what do you mean who do you go for then? And these are white kids, man, saying that the U.S. sucks. So it's a problem. You know what I mean? You talked about the dual nationals or Moroccan Americans or going for Mbappe. Yeah, there's a huge problem. And as that translates, because then I wrote it down here, when I was in the Galaxy, which the league is going a long way and all that, players within our own academy, they wanted to go to watch the games and they weren't allowed to go to watch the game. They would occasionally be given a ticket, occasionally. And the players want to go with their friends, with their family. Like, we belong to this. Like, it's something that I pitched so many times. Hey, Seattle does this. Every single 14, 16, 18, every academy team has their own section, every game, field side. You know what I mean? So they can grow and feel the colors and feel the fans and feel that I want to be there one day. The Galaxy was kind of cast aside. They weren't given that opportunity. And two, the players didn't even know players on the team. Hey, I call the sports director. Hey, come over here. Because I don't want them to say, oh, Brian's because you. No, it's not me. The player, hey, tell us who the starting left back for the Galaxy is.
They won't know.
He couldn't tell his sports director who the left back. Name me 5 players on the first team. Okay, they know the DPs: Jonah, Dos Santos, Gio.
Whoa, that's a lot already. 5 is a lot. You go to Orlando, you ask 90% of the city here, they can't name one player. And then if you keep going, they'll name maybe Facundo Torres, and that's about it. It's something Kaká is still playing here. So,
hey, but Filippo, if you go to an AC Milan Academy kid and say, hey, name me the starting lineup and the 7 guys on the bench for the first team, zero issue. They'll rattle it off, no problem. Like, it's crazy. You know what I mean? And instead of fixing the problem and come back, like, no, they can't go to the first team game because we don't have enough tickets. Sorry. Solve the problem. Put a new chairs, bleachers. Solve the problem. You know what I mean?
Brian, I worked with an Orlando City soccer school for about 1.5 years, and I've left for a while ever since I had knee surgery because it's been a pain to stand for too long. And out of the 1.5 years or so that I lived, and I'm saying this because maybe it changed. Okay, maybe it changed. I don't know, but when I was there for 1.5 years, they never gave tickets to any of the games, any of them. The second thing was you know how many players visited one training session at least to like introduce themselves, get the kids to see the player and talk. You know how many players visited in that 1.5 years or so? None. 0. No players. It doesn't take that much time. It's like, hey, there's this soccer school. They have training from, I don't know, 4 to 7 every day. Can one player come every month and just show up there? One player, the kids will love it. The player can kick with the ball with them a little bit. They'll feel connected. And then these kids will maybe want to go to games like that. I want to go watch that guy. And they'll root for that guy. Nothing is done. Like, and then the player, the kid doesn't feel connected. I reached out to Orlando and said, hey, I don't want free tickets to make money. I'm not here to sell it, but I'm trying to connect you guys to embrace the community. Maybe give me some tickets and I'll give it to the kids here from Orlando City as a gift. And then the parents will go to the game. I mean, the games are not packed. You might as well. Right. Correct. The kids will like it. They'll stay. They'll feel connected with the club. But the thing is, it doesn't seem like it's either there's no long-term vision or there's a lot of incompetent people working, or maybe the goal just isn't to grow it. They don't care. You don't need to grow it. That's not the goal. I don't know. And I think it's more of like a cultural problem that we've been talking about this whole episode. It starts with the higher ups, and it's the culture of like being soft and always wanting to be in control and everything. That's what I get from it.
But Filippo, like, these seem such logical quick fixes, no? Like, you have an empty stadium and you have a community that would love to attend. Like the US soccer January friendlies, always very poorly attended. Yet they still charge whatever, an arm and a leg to go watch a pretty poor product. Why not charge next to nothing? Or why not give every single Southern California club 100 tickets? Here you go to go watch give them to them. What's the problem of having 20,000 empty seats? It's a bad look, man. Like, it doesn't take a genius to figure out a solution to this problem, right?
Why does it not happen? Why don't they fix it?
I have no clue. It's absurd to me. It's every year is the same story. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what's the purpose behind it? Listen, if it's a sporting thing that we don't care if people come or not, we don't need that money, that revenue. Well, that's a problem too. You should care. You should want people in the seats. You should want to have a good product where people want to go and participate. It's one step at a time, and I feel like we're taking no steps in the right direction, man.
I think
I'm such at a point, Filippo, that I'm so disappointed and disillusioned with everything that it entails within our country's soccer culture and ecosystem that sometimes I throw my hands up. I'm like, all the efforts that I want to put in to help, they go out the window. You know what I mean?
I think a lot of it goes down to what you said in the beginning of the segment when you said they're soft, and it comes down from upper management. They're soft and it trickles down. And when you are soft, when you're a soft person, you want to always have control. You freak out if you lose control. And the thing with US soccer is if it does grow too much, they will lose control. It would just kind of things start to happen, right? Things start to happen. You lose control. If it's someone that's soft, and that goes for anything in life, it goes for a CEO of a company, relationship, a marriage. If one side is soft, they'll have insecurities and they won't allow things to happen out of their control. And I think it might not be something that's even on purpose. It might just go down to what you were saying in the beginning and it just trickles down. But again, I do see some minor improvements over time that give me hope. It definitely is improving. It's just much slower than we would like it to, but I still think it's improving. But that could be me being delusional. Brian, before we close it here, because I've been taking way too much of your time, any final thoughts before we end the episode?
Final thoughts. Based on everything we discussed, it's only an employee. It's only one job. But could you see Mourinho? Can you see Bielsa? Can you see these types of managers that, for good or for bad, they don't listen to the suits. They come to an agreement, they sign a contract, but they have such buying power at this moment of their careers with their trajectories where they're not going to play ball and let a suit dictate or anybody influence anything on the soccer side. It's quite the contrary. Do you see any of these types being allowed into our soft culture?
No, I posted my prediction. I think they're going to, at the end of the day, they're going to hire Jim Curtin. That's what I think will happen. I hope I'm wrong. I think that would be a sign of improvement from what we're talking about. If we hire a Mourinho, a Bielsa, whether or not we agree if it's the right fit, that's a different discussion. But from a personality standpoint, that would show signs of improvement. But to answer your question, I don't think so. And I think you don't think so either.
No, zero chance. Everything that's coming out, didn't you say something that Ernie
He
kind of
said they didn't contact anyone. That's what he said. Yeah.
Yeah, no surprise. Felipe, thank you so much, man. I hope we accomplished a little bit today. I
A
enjoyed
lot.
myself.
And everyone, go follow Brian on Twitter. Go check out his YouTube channel, 2343. I'm going to be putting all the handles on the description of this video. Thank you very much for watching, and drop a like before you go. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Later, guys. Later.